Welcome to Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the show where we watch, review, and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. Thanks for joining us. This week, we're all here. It's me, Chris, back again with Patrick.
Hi.
Steven.
Hello.
And joining us again, our very special guest, Sam.
Hello.
You might remember Sam from, I don't know when it was, but she watched Bedeviled with us. She watched Beyond the Gates with us.
Back in the B's. It feels good to be in the Seas now.
It feels like we're climbing a
We've
mountain.
traveled.
And we're looking down and we see like our old campsites torn apart by the wind down range.
Yeah, like a half mile away, and we still got like 500 miles to go.
Yeah. Pioneers. But you know, I'm sad this week because we're in the first week of November, which means spooky season is officially over.
No. It is Halloween until it snows. In my life, anyway.
I mean, it's spooky season all year round.
Amen.
I mean, some of the best ghost stories take place at Christmas time. I mean, look at Dickens' Christmas Carol. It's
all right,
pretty
holiday
spooky for a while.
season.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Oh, well, you should check it out at your local public library.
Okay.
So, you might like it.
Track it down.
It's okay.
Well, we did note that there's a push to start Halloween in September. So the next frontier is to keep it going till Christmas. But the
Good
Christmas
luck.
stuff's already out at the stores, and no one
I turn
cares
a
about
blind eye.
Halloween anymore.
Well, Halloween candy is gone.
Not at Meijer.
It's gone. Yeah,
Really?
mine. Yeah. Oh, I thought you mean at the stores.
At the stores, yeah.
I thought you were talking about in my house.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I mean,
That Halloween candy didn't last long.
yeah, mine neither.
It came and went faster than Clive Owen's career.
Ooh.
Chris knows about my secret shame. The other night, I went to Kroger. I'd been craving ice cream, and then I also realized it was the day after Halloween. So I got the ice cream. I got a 6-pack of Reese's pumpkins. Then I ate 4 of the pumpkins and a half a pint of ice cream all in the same night. It was pretty fucking bad.
I'm no stranger to a food binge, but if you put down 4 pumpkins and a pint of ice cream, you fucking animal.
Yeah, Chris was horrified when I told him this the other day.
Screaming. That's almost as disgusting as some of the stuff we see in this movie Cargo this week. Cargo.
That's how it's spelled, yeah.
Cargo was
Also,
its name.
Australian film, also the title of a I think platinum selling album by an Australian band called Men at Work. You guys familiar with Men at Work?
Yes.
The album
I'm
Cargo?
not.
Okay.
Not the album specifically, but Men at Work, yes.
Well, Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive, great song.
Mm.
Anyway, Cargo, what's this about?
Well, we have Martin Freeman, who...
Bilbo Baggins himself.
Bilbo Baggins himself.
John
Back for another
Watson.
adventure.
I'm really not experienced with Martin Freeman.
What?
Oh, whoa.
I did not see the Hobbit movies.
What about The Office?
I didn't see those.
No.
Let's do that again in harmony, Sam.
What? No,
TFT.
he's in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot with Tina Fey, and I thought he was super sexy in that
I
movie.
wanted to see that movie, but I didn't.
He's in
He's
the,
in Black
the
Panther.
MCU. Yeah.
Oh,
He's
of
in
course.
the
Yeah.
original Office. He's in the Hobbit movies.
He's in Ghost Stories, that new
Okay.
Sherlock.
IFC Midnight movie that I'm
Okay.
sure we'll review eventually on the show.
He's kind of a nerd icon at this point. He's pretty beloved for a lot of different nerdy roles.
Oh, and a superb actor.
Yeah, oh, he's great.
This is a very this isn't your typical zombie movie. There's a little bit of gore in it, but the action scenes are few and far between. It's a character drama, and Martin Freeman is very believable. I don't even know though if he tweaked his accent for this movie. This is set in Australia.
Yeah, it just
No,
sounds
he
like he's
didn't.
doing
Yeah.
his
They're
native
close enough,
accent.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was just surprised to see him playing such a capable character because I'm used to seeing him play sort of bumblers like Bilbo and even his character in The Office. But apparently on Sherlock, he's very capable, which I'm not aware of because I haven't really seen the show.
I thought he was a little bit of a bumbler in this movie, but...
What?
He there are a few bungles in this movie, but I wouldn't call him a bumbler.
He's resourceful as fuck.
That's fair.
He fucks up a couple of times, and we'll get into that, though.
So it's I'm not
I
sure.
want to see how you do protecting your baby, your babby in the zombie apocalypse, Chris.
So that's
you probably
basically
make
the
a few
premise.
bungles too.
That's basically the premise. This is a zombie apocalypse movie where Martin Freeman, he has a baby. He's trying to get to safety across the Australian outback. And that's it. That's the movie.
Well, there are zombies.
There's zombies.
There are zombies, but it's not really a zombie. I don't like zombie movies, and this movie did not bother me on the zombie front because you hardly see zombies in this movie. It's very much about the threat of the, just the desertion of the terrain and the people you run into, and the fact that, I guess we should say he's turning into a zombie. Is that too much of a spoiler?
No, I
I
mean,
don't
that
think
happens
so.
quite early on. I mean, it is a pretty shocking first act. Like, it almost feels like a spoiler. It feels like spoilers to reveal it, but a lot of pretty shocking stuff happens in the first half hour, even just setting up the plot.
Yeah, we begin in a houseboat. Martin Freeman, his wife, and their baby are kind of traveling. They're running out of resources. They happen upon a yacht that's sunken halfway up against the bank, and Martin Freeman goes in to investigate, finds some food, finds a fancy bottle of wine that looks unscathed from whatever happened to this boat. He notices something in the closet at the end of the boat, though. There's clearly something in there. Doesn't tell his wife, doesn't want to worry her. He goes to sleep. It's their anniversary. She goes in to investigate to see what else she can find. She gets bitten by a zombie, comes back, and then we kind of learn a little bit about what's going on with this virus, at least like the protection measures. This movie has its own sort of unique rules. And soon thereafter, Martin Freeman is bitten himself. And we spend most of the movie with him trying to get his baby to safety across this desolate terrain.
Before he transforms, because the virus in this movie takes 48 hours to turn you into a zombie. So he knows he's only got 48 hours to somehow get his baby to someone who will take care of the kid well, that he can trust before he's done. He's a goner, basically.
I thought it was interesting, though, that to introduce the zombies or the virus that's going around, instead of just kind of laying it all out in the beginning, like how it all began, like Contagion or something, they kind of laid out these little clues. And so then you kind of figured it out once, the wife was bitten, and then you realize, okay, now it's a 48-hour virus, and these are the steps and progression of the virus. And so then you kind of have a feel for it once Martin Freeman becomes bit, and you know what to expect.
Yeah, it's very impactful the way the world is sort of slowly laid out, and you slowly realize the details and then kind of the fine print of the way this all works. And we never find out where the zombies came from, which is great. I don't give a fuck,
I don't either. And I love, so it's like one of the coolest like exposition dumps I've ever seen in a movie, where there are these sort of like floating like emergency packs in the river that they're traveling on, and you pop it open, and it's like basically there's a little Fitbit in there that tells you how much, you set a timer on it for 48 hours after you get bit. There's if you decide that you want to off yourself, there's like a little spike that you can jam into the side of your skull. There are all these instructions with cute little
illustrations of how to kill yourself.
Yeah, and I thought that was I've never seen that in a zombie movie before, where it's like it's clear that it's not interested in where the virus came from, but it is very interested in like setting out the rules of the virus for you as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, it felt like a very lived-in universe.
Yeah, like this has been around for a while. Like, like, okay, we're going to get bit, and like we can probably pretty easily find one of these emergency packs. They're fucking everywhere. The government's just sort of bombed the terrain with them.
And I like that the emergency kit really offers no solution other than kill yourself.
Yeah.
It gives you the tool to do it.
And it's so effective because it feels so real, and yet I feel like this was a relatively cheap movie to make. They don't waste a bunch of budget on having a zillion zombies running around or creating, some burnt out city street like you've seen in every other zombie movie. There are just these subtle little touches, and otherwise they're shooting basically out in the middle of the fucking outback most of the time. And, it's simple but very, very effective.
The outback is such striking terrain. Like, I've long been a fan of movies set in Australia. Like, Walkabout's one of my favorite movies. Picnic at Hanging Rock. Like, there's a scene in Walkabout where it's nothing but a burning car in the outback, and if you were to just isolate that frame, it looks like a zombie apocalypse movie, just because of how crazy the background looks.
No, this movie adds to the long list that I'm continuing to compile in my head of Australian movies about how fucked up Australia is. Like, Australian filmmakers make really disturbing movies about Australia, like Walkabout, Awaken Fright, The Proposition, this movie are all just like, whoa, what the fuck is going on in your country that makes you depicted in such a horrifying
Why
manner?
are we doing that?
Yeah, because I saw the Film Australia seal at the beginning of the movie, and so then I'm there's all these pretty glamorous shots of the outback terrain and everything. I'm like, I wonder how heavily this was subsidized by Australia. Is this like a tourism video I'm watching? But I don't want to fucking go to Australia.
No.
For one thing, there's flies all over everything. Jesus hell, there's scenes where there's characters having a conversation and there's just wild flies landing on their faces.
Yeah.
And zombies are like maybe number 5 or number 6 of the scariest things you can run into in the outback. I mean,
lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a funnel web spider is reason enough not to go in the outback.
Kangaroos alone can.
Kangaroos will end your day.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
What
they'll
do
punch you out.
Really?
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know that kangaroos
They're
were like
about as
hostile
tall
to
as you,
humans.
and they can absolutely attack you.
Wow.
There's a great video online. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's gone viral, but it's like it's guys at a park or something in the outback, and a kangaroo grabs his dog and puts it in a headlock, and the owner of the dog like punches the kangaroo out, like totally clocks him twice in the head. It's disturbing. I don't believe in cruelty toward animals, but the kangaroo had it coming.
Yeah, I mean, he was being
Trying to
cruel to the
suffocate that
dog.
dog.
Yeah, he had it coming to him.
Oh, my God.
It's a wild place, and we should mention that there's kind of a side plot in this movie dealing with Aborigines and sort of how they're reacting to this zombie crisis. And I'm not sure how it all really adds up in the end, or whether or not it's necessary, or if there's some social context I'm missing. But it adds a layer of like mysticism and like magical realism to this otherwise pretty straightforward character drama.
Well, really, it's more than a subplot. Like we have an Aboriginal character.
Side plot.
Side
Yeah,
plot.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Is that even a term?
Yeah.
I would say it's the plot, really. I mean,
But it sort of creeps up on you because we should explain. So there's an Aboriginal character who we see fairly early on, a little girl who
you would bet your life is a boy until they tell you she's a girl.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
Whatever. She's cute.
I need to say that. I need to get that off my
As
chest.
a girl, I could see her like preteen, anthills from a mile away.
Oh,
So
wow.
she's clearly a girl.
Wow. I wasn't looking.
I could too.
Continue. I'm sorry to interject.
Anyways, this Aboriginal girl, we don't really understand her significance to the plot early on. She doesn't have a lot of lines. We don't even know quite what she's doing, and her significance, her role in the movie grows hugely as things go on to the point where she definitely becomes a protagonist alongside Martin Freeman.
Yeah. One thing I thought was really cool is like, I don't know that anything really ended up happening with this idea, but soon after we see the emergency kit and we learn how white people are handling this problem, we have the Aboriginals who have their own culture and their own sort of like, mystical ways of interpreting the world and the reality around them. And this girl, like, her dad became a zombie, but she devised this like mouthpiece so that he can't bite anyone. To
Like
her,
a gag.
yeah, like
a bit gag.
Exactly. And she'll find blood for him to lick on and put it on a tree or whatever. But like to her, he's still alive. He's just changed. And I thought that was cool. I don't know that the movie really developed that idea of these two sort of like opposing viewpoints on this plague I don't know.
Well, the Aboriginals also in the movie have the power to drive the zombies out. Like they've kind of figured it out. They've got this paint that, what?
I don't know about that.
I had a hard time understanding what was going on with those scenes.
According to the girl, they have a paint that keeps the zombies away. But I think that's just her trying to interpret the zombies through her own traditions. Because when we actually meet the larger Aboriginal tribe, they're all full of paint, and the zombies are still coming after them. And their solution is just to kill all the zombies.
Yeah, but they're also doing the whole thing where they're burning the fields, which somehow has some effect on the zombies, purportedly. I mean, the Aboriginals are fucking the zombies up anytime the Aboriginals come into contact with them.
They were burning the fields because the people turning into zombies would put their head in the sand for whatever reason. And so they basically could take that advantage and burn them while their head is in the sand versus them like coming at them.
Oh, is that what they're... Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right, because they're all the charred bodies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a really spooky image, too.
I have to wonder if it's inspired by the story that you probably all have heard of, the parasite that infects ants. You know what I'm talking about? There's
it's like a body snatcher kind of thing, right?
I don't know what kind of biological organism it is.
It's a
Might be.
fungus,
Is it a
isn't
fungus?
I think it's a
I think that's
fungus.
right. But it's a fungus that infects ants and fucks with their brain so
mind
that they
control.
like climb up to a tree and like sit there in the middle of the night or something like that. And then there's a reason all this happens. It's the parasitology is, but basically it mind controls ants to behave much in a way that these people do at night. So I think that may be what they were trying to go for.
Interesting.
So this movie's about ants, is what you're telling me.
I don't know what this movie is about. It's about a lot of stuff.
I wish I knew more about Australian politics, and I didn't really have a chance
Same.
to read reviews, particularly Australian reviews of this movie. But there's a lot in this movie about oil and the petroleum industry in
I'm
Australia.
obsessed. I mean, there's, 4 Mad Max movies now?
Yeah.
The gasoline war.
It's been going on for decades, apparently.
But I think there's definitely something here with how the petroleum industry has affected Australia and how it's affected the Aboriginal population disproportionately. At least that's what I was picking up.
Well, it's probably the same story that we have in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Whereas, there's a environmental politics are indigenous peoples politics often, and you have mining companies, and in this case, fracking companies, and disrupting the natural order, which affects the traditions of these indigenous people. So I don't know. I read some subtext that maybe the fracking had caused the zombie outbreak.
Yeah. I thought it was like a social commentary of how white people, are taking land and using the land improperly, and how we're kind of fucking up the world. And now the earth is kind of putting it back on us. And I think the fact that the Aboriginals were able to combat them says something in a social context.
Yeah, the zombie outbreak to me felt very much like it was sort of symptomatic of the ecological or social devastation that the oil industry and fracking had caused in the movie. And it felt very empowering of the Aboriginal population by the end.
That's all fine and good, and I kind of read that into it, but ultimately it didn't affect me emotionally.
Right.
It affected me.
You mean the movie or like that theme?
The movie, but also that theme. Like, I could see it play out. I saw what they were doing, but I was like, but it's another zombie movie that happens to be well directed and well acted. But I didn't feel like there were enough, I don't feel like the dots were connected well enough for me to really think this stood out from anything else I've seen in this genre.
I almost fucking sobbed so many times.
I've
during
heard
this
that reaction,
movie.
and I get it.
I wanna
we'll
dig
talk
into
about the
that.
end,
Yeah.
but we gotta wait.
Yeah.
And some of what I'm about to say,
I'll save
we
my
might-
tears for the spoiler room.
some of this point I'm about to make might have to get picked up again in the spoiler room as well. But for me, the environmental stuff and all that, and just the general post-apocalyptic feel of the movie did kind of resonate with me, because I've been, as Patrick knows, I've been incredibly shook about the latest United Nations climate report, which came out at the beginning of October.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't looked it up,
Oh, God.
don't look it up, because it will frighten you. The specifics I forget, but long story short, we have about a decade to almost completely eliminate the amount of carbon we're putting into the atmosphere.
So we don't die in another 30, right?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're past the point. We're past the point where there's inevitable things that are going to happen. We can't stop them, mass extinctions, etc. If we keep going on the rate we're going, like 30, 40, 50 years, it's going to be a post-apocalyptic wasteland to where some of the basic
I have to wait
foundations...
that long? God damn it.
We'll start prepping now, right?
Enough
Yeah.
systems are going to be damaged that the basic things of what we call civilization will be at risk of failure.
You know what? This is a good opportunity for me to bring up what we were talking about off-cast, which is, what is the appeal of zombie movies? There's a motorcycle outside trying to interrupt me. The fuel wars are on. What is the appeal of zombie movies? I mean, I know as
We're
Sam,
broadcasting live from Fury Road.
oh, what a lovely day. Sam and I were talking about 28 Days Later. I mean, I remember that being a big movie for me. Everybody's seen Night of the Living Dead and hopefully Dawn of the Dead. but now we've got The Walking Dead is in season like 25, and there's just all these zombie video games. When I was a kid and I liked this stuff, it was because I liked the idea of like, as the young boys do, like pure like pandemonium and chaos and having to fend for yourself and carry a gun and harvest resources for yourself. Like that was like a fun sort of like thought experiment or like adventure concept. Now I don't really get it. I don't get anything out of this genre. I think like any ability to tell like a compelling character drama has been completely milked from the genre because we've seen it so many times.
Until Cargo. This is a new one.
I guess so. I mean, it didn't
the zombie parts of Cargo were the same as everything I've seen before. I think there's nothing you can add to the zombie genre that hasn't already been done. But then you have to bring all the other stuff. So the drama, the characters from Cargo. I don't feel like they put enough into the Aboriginal storyline to make you feel. I think that's why you didn't connect with them, because we don't really know any of the background. We just know that she's one of them, and they have a different way of looking at the epidemic or the spirit as well. So
I agree. I don't think there was enough else there, but okay, I get it. For this story, there has to be a threat, and if you're going to involve the Aboriginals, like. I mean, it only makes sense to just choose something sort of organic, like a plague or a virus, to be the threat. At the end of the day, I don't know if this is a story worth telling in the way it's told, though. Like, I'm fine for a, somber drama about the plights of, Aboriginals dealing with the fracking industry in Australia.
The movie you want to see is James Cameron's Avatar.
Yeah, sure. No, I feel like there's going to be a Naomi Watts movie in our near future that satisfies the needs for whatever the audience for this kind of story is. I don't understand why there are zombies in it. I just don't get it.
I don't know. I have never liked zombie movies. Cynically, I think that the reason zombies are popular as much as they are is a lot of people have a fantasy about like getting to shoot other people legally.
Oh God!
I didn't want to say that in my rant earlier, but yeah, that's
right.
That's kind of there too.
These days, though, because I'm concerned about the impending climate apocalypse, I'm seeing different things, and I've been talking to Patrick about how I've been replaying The Last of Us, great zombie post-apocalyptic video game.
I'll give that one a pass. It is masterful,
right? And zombies. Much like in Cargo, in that game, are incidental kind of to the actual meat of the story. And I think that a zombie apocalypse just sets up kind of an apocalyptic world where you can have an interesting, I like seeing people scavenge for supplies and
or like I Am Legends kind of thing.
The paranoia. I haven't seen I Am Legend. I wanted to see that in the theater and I never did. And now I know.
I mean, it's a Will Smith movie, but it's interesting.
Yeah. I learned today that Will Patton from Faith No More actually did some voiceover work for I Am Legend. Apparently he was one of the vampire zombie monster things.
Cool.
Weird.
Does this movie need to be about zombies? I don't know. I mean, basically he's going to turn into a zombie. That's the one interesting thing you can do with a zombie that you can't do with other apocalyptic stuff. Mm-hmm. Have a guy, have your friend turn into a zombie, and you have to kill him or her.
It's dragged out for so fucking long.
Well, did anybody watch? It's dragged out for the whole movie.
I know. Has anybody seen the short film that this was based on?
No.
So the directors, two directors, I don't know their names, it's a male and a female, I think, made a short film, I believe also called Cargo. It's like 7 minutes, and it is this movie in a nutshell without the social or political subtext. It's a great short film.
Are there Aborigines in it?
No.
Amazing.
The short film is we begin with the car crash, the zombie wife biting the husband.
Yeah.
Him realizing what's happening. Then we hear the baby. Then there's kind of a shot. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or not, but they have those little people stickers in the back of their car with like mom, dad, and baby. And he like peels the mom off because she just died.
What the fuck?
So then he knows he's turning into a zombie. So he's like kind of racing with the baby on his back across the countryside, trying to find somebody to take the baby before he dies. And then it cuts to him because he knew he had to keep himself motivated because he's a zombie and keep walking. He's got like a piece of meat hung on a stick in front of him, and then he ends up finding like this outpost. They shoot him down. Somehow the bullet doesn't hit the baby, and then the human survivors take the baby and carry it off. This is all in 7 minutes. That is this whole movie, honestly, the good parts of it. And it's done very quickly and efficiently.
Ugh.
All right, Patrick.
No.
Time to talk to Patrick.
Yes.
I really did not emotionally connect to this movie outside of the first act, which I thought was very good. I'm sad that we had to kind of spoil the whole first act to explain what the whole movie's about.
Yeah.
Because everything when it's him and his wife and the baby and they're trying to survive and she gets bit and then what are they going to do about it? All that was working for me 100%. The rest of it didn't turn the dial. Why did you love this movie, Patrick?
I don't know. I mean, it's great character development. The Aboriginal girl character was built up in a really interesting way to me. I was just totally invested. Great performances, great writing, and just really moving and sort of wrenching decisions that this character had to make throughout the thing. And a great bond really formed between Martin Freeman's character and Tuvi or whatever the girl's name was.
I just didn't get it. I just didn't feel that. And I thought the Aboriginal character was very poorly developed. Like, I can't tell you anything about her other than that she was an Aborigine as a substitute for her character.
And we know nothing about her family either.
Yeah.
She's almost...
We know her dad was infected.
Okay.
Sure. But, like, about who she is, her character...
The family dynamic.
She's really kind of like almost...
we know she's very resourceful.
She's resourceful.
Okay.
She's about as well developed as Rey is The Force Awakens, I think.
No.
I'm kidding. I know Chris likes to dig at that movie. I mean, yeah, we know certain things about her. I mean, we probably know as much about her as we do Martin Freeman's character. It's just that I don't know, the never the twain should meet. Like, they just don't... I don't think those two storylines really gel together in a way that makes sense. Like, for half the movie, I don't know why I'm following this girl around through the outback and watching her draw pictures of her, zombie dad.
Right. I feel like everything that you see in those early scenes of her could have been shown to us at a later time after she had met Martin Freeman, and we wouldn't be scratching our heads for the first half of the movie wondering why we're cutting away from the storyline that we care about to show us this Aborigine like drawing a TV thing on the...
There are only a couple of shots of that before Martin Freeman's plot intersects with hers.
Yeah,
she's a mystery for a very short period of time, and I think to a large degree the point is that she is the protagonist. She's the one who's going to kind of carry things forward, and I guess not to get... I mean, that's sort of getting into spoilery territory here.
I already spoiled the whole thing.
She's the one she and her people are the ones who are going to inherit this reality, basically, at the end. Like, it's not Martin Freeman's story in the end.
I just didn't like it. It kind of bored me.
It works on paper.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Sam.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
It works on paper, but and I recognized as I was watching, I didn't feel anything, though. By the end of it, I was just kind of bored and exhausted.
Wow.
And actually... LOL'd pretty hardcore at
the
a very
emotional
large
climax
moment.
of the movie. I did the same thing. We'll talk about it in the spoiler round.
You guys are assholes. That's all I have to say.
What, because we have a different opinion than you?
No, that's a gut wrenching. And
Well, it touched your gut, but my
Just
flora is
because
on a
we
whole
don't
different
feel
level, baby.
the way that you feel doesn't make it wrong.
I'm glad you had this experience with the movie because I felt like the movie so badly wanted my heartstrings and it so badly wanted me to connect this Aborigine to Martin Freeman and get invested in that whole arc, and it wasn't working for me. And maybe I'm a psychopath, or maybe it's bad filmmaking.
The big continues.
We
I'm
haven't
glad it
built up
worked.
this track record.
I'm glad it worked for somebody, though.
No, I think I agree with you. I think if we started with Martin Freeman meeting her in a circumstance that they did, and then we go back and learn all these other things, like, about her dad and all that, I think that we could have connected with the character a little bit more. But the way that they laid it out, I wasn't invested. Like, I felt bad for her being in this cage, but like, it didn't really matter until they met each other.
We got kids in cages in America, and it's not even the apocalypse. So
Yeah. Oh, I don't know why I'm laughing at that.
Oh, God.
Well, Chris, you know how we were talking, God, I keep going back to Offcast. We had some scintillating conversation. how some movies are like, or some ideas are best made as short films and not stretch out to features. That's how I felt about this watching it. And then I was delighted to learn that it was based on a short film and that the director said,
I'm shocked that the Aboriginal aspect was not in the short film, because I feel like that is this movie's point. It's all about, like I was asking you, Steve, if one of the writers or directors was actually Aboriginal, because it seems like this movie has something it really wants to say and illustrate with that. And I'm surprised that wouldn't be in the short film. Did they just add that for padding or color or flavor?
I don't know if that was the intent from the beginning, and they want to, a lot of filmmakers will make a short and then, try and sell it or, make a hit on the festival circuit, and then they can use it to sell the bigger story, the feature film. I don't know, but there's no hint of it in the short. It's pure action with a baby.
I don't know. The thing is, there were a whole bunch of parts of this movie that I liked a lot. Like I said, the first act worked for me almost 100%, with a couple, well, I'll tell you why it didn't work for me 100% later. But there were scenes that were great. There were little arcs that were great, but it was so disjointed feeling, and it felt like things weren't really affecting each other. I didn't really understand the journey. I feel like if you have a movie where the character is trying to get from point A to point B, I need a very clear idea of where point B is and how long it's going to take to get there.
Oh, I'll object to that, though. I mean, he doesn't know. Like, he's got a map and he has an idea, but like at one point he gets to what is supposed to be like a military barracks, and it's just like a bombed out husk of a building. Well, and that's the world he's living in.
Well, and also he's constantly trying to find someone he can entrust his kid to, and different opportunities keep not panning out. Like, he takes her to the old school teacher, who seems like she would probably be a pretty good person to leave the kid with, but then she takes off her wig and she fucking has cancer. You're not going to leave your baby with the woman who has cancer.
She totally should have, and that's why I got divested from I don't know, from the movie, because I was like, here you go, leave it with her. She has her shit together. Yeah, she has cancer, but she's going to live a lot longer than you will.
And she can find somebody else to entrust the kid to.
She knows the land. She knows where all the legit people are. Like, why don't you just leave her with the teacher, and then that's the end of the movie?
Yeah, that kind of baffled me too.
There's a lot of things where I feel like if things had just gone a little bit differently, everyone would have been okay, and then there's no movie. Like, why don't you just tell your wife there's a zombie on the boat that's 20 feet from our boat?
Right.
Then there's not a movie.
That was a little misfiring. Like, the first part of that movie, I felt like there were a lot of like, oh, men moments.
Yeah.
Did you feel that, Sam?
A little bit. I mean, it was more like, I think it was because they're like, oh, it's their anniversary. Why spoil it? Because,
I think it was like he thought he was going to get away with all the stuff on the boat. He knew there was something on the boat.
Well, he was doing something that his wife didn't want him to do.
Yeah.
So he just like hid it from her, which obviously didn't pan out well for their relationship.
Well, they have a couple of arguments like really early on too, where she's like frustrated that like he's like pretending he has a plan, but he doesn't. There's clearly a lot of kind of like low key hubris in his character at the beginning of the movie. And I thought it was interesting. I liked seeing that play out, the drama between him and his wife. I feel like the movie really kind of like I missed her actually after she was gone.
Absolutely, because that stuff was so much more interesting to me than the rest of the movie. But the most egregious part was when the scene where she gets bit and, she wants to basically sit under a tree and kill herself, and she wants the Martin Freeman and the baby to get in the car and go away. And she makes a good case for it. And I'm like, I'm really invested in this scene. Yeah. And he thinks about it and he's like, no, I can't do that. I got to try to save you. Takes her, puts her in the car, and then 10 seconds later, they crash the car into a tree and she dies anyway. And so I'm like, why did you give me that scene and then do this?
I mean, it is interesting.
I think to show his dedication to her.
I think his selfishness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly.
I felt like he was being selfish.
Yeah.
And I hated the baby, which is another reason I didn't connect to this movie.
She's the cutest thing ever.
Okay, she's got a great hat. I'll give her that.
Don't make me watch an hour and 44-minute movie with a fussy baby in it who's just fussing the whole time.
She's fussing because she loves her mother and she misses her.
And she was in the middle of a fucking traumatic ass situation. I don't give a fuck about babies, but that baby was adorable.
You know what? That baby, honestly, there was a moment where like he had to like shush the baby, and I was thinking like, well, how brilliant that like this baby hasn't made a fucking sound this entire movie until now.
No, that baby made tons of noise. That baby was just a fussy ass baby, pissing me off. I don't want to be chained to a fussy baby in real life. I don't want to be chained to a fussy baby for entertainment.
I wasn't bothered by it, which is strange because I don't like babies. I think they're ugly.
Okay, am I the only one in the group that actually likes babies?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, no, I thought that she was adorable, and I was really hoping that it was going to work out, but I don't know. I felt like they were trying to harp on this, like, he didn't have a relationship with the baby, and now the mom is gone, and he has to kind of, like, figure out how to take care of a baby, and it's just kind of, I thought that was played out in other films before, so... But she's real cute, so you guys
he seemed
are
very
weird.
capable with her.
Was there a diaper changing scene in this movie?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering. I didn't remember.
The mom's changing the baby on the hood of the car. Martin Freeman looks at a map. He brings the map down.
Oh, right,
the woman's
and she's gone
because she's on the ground convulsing because of zombie.
Oh, no, I just wondered if like there's a scene where he has to take time out from, his struggle to change the diaper.
He doesn't do anything like that. He doesn't do any parenting in this movie.
Yeah, none at all. That's what I'm getting
That's
to,
why
basically.
the movie's called Cargo, because the baby's cargo.
He feeds
Just
her,
a package.
though. He does feed her, I think. Right?
I don't
mom
remember
feeds
anybody
her.
eating in this movie.
The
He
mom
gives her
feeds the
water at
baby.
one point.
Well, other than
I don't know.
flesh.
Wait, why is this important? Why are we talking about this?
I don't know, but
Whether he does-
it might speak to a reason why I really just mostly disdained the baby, and the baby was kind of a distraction from things I...
Where is this movie without the baby, though?
It's not. I don't
Okay.
know, but... Again, I try not to judge these movies based on the movie I would have made, but I think this would have been a better movie if they had made the whole first half of the movie about the wife, and then she gets bit at the midpoint of the movie.
Yes.
We have a little more time with the family, a little more time to understand that dynamic, and then the second half is only the good parts of this movie.
Better movie.
Put together.
Way better movie, because I was really invested in that drama, and I was like shocked that they just went for it and killed her off so quickly. Yeah. Normally that would be like somewhere in Act 2. And it didn't supply me with enough supplemental material to remain interested after she died. I thought like, oh, this is going to be that kind of movie where something crazy happens every 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's not. They kind of faked us out.
You guys, I don't understand. You guys.
Defend yourself. Come on.
Why do you want that plot point dragged out?
I'm just saying I was bored by the movie, and I'm just thinking of other like what it would have looked like if it was a movie that I could enjoy.
Yeah, I'm not trying to drag
Just
out
my
anything.
own personal taste.
I just thought I thought the family dynamic and the decision making and the survival stuff was way more interesting than most of the movie we ended up getting. And I thought that the movie after the wife died just really kind of was a pacing nightmare and draggy, and they were trying to get me into this Aboriginal story, and I didn't really understand where we were going, and I had a hard time with it.
If they changed the plot, though, they couldn't call it Cargo, because I think the whole point of Cargo is that he's carrying this child all over.
Which I'm curious about. Like, why is it called Cargo? Like, are they trying to say something with that title?
Well, this baby is
Right?
like the next generation, right? Like it's going to be raised by Aboriginals and presumably help, contribute to the good cause and stop the fracking and all that other
Right,
business.
because all the Aboriginals need is that white baby to help.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Save
right.
them.
Right.
I was
The white savior.
That did
be-
raise some questionable.
Yeah, it's like I really don't know
Points.
what the thought process behind that was, but I can see certain parties being very offended.
Any more defense there, Patrick?
No, I mean this movie has an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I feel like you guys are the ones
No, it
who
doesn't
need
mean
to
It
show
does have an
that
85% on Rotten Tomatoes,
viewpoint.
and I'll have
And
to
the average
read some
review
of
is like
that.
a C minus.
Did you say it doesn't?
No, I'll have to read the reviews and find out what people are seeing in this movie. This is a movie like The Ritual that has gotten broad acclaim, and I watch it, and I'm like, it has some good ideas, it has some good parts, but it kind of sucks.
Look, I don't. I'm
With
not gonna,
that, maybe we should just go to View It Cute.
I'm not going to go on my Rotten Tomatoes rant right now. I think it deserves an 85%. That's a solid B. It's a B movie. I think some people are going to love it like Patrick did. I think there's a lot going on. There's a lot to attach yourself to. If you get on its wavelength, there's enough there to become invested in it. And it's made well enough and acted well enough that I could see it being a pretty, a good tearjerker. It just didn't work for me. Cue it.
All right, cue it. Sam, would you view it, cue it, or screw it?
I would say that if you like zombie movies and it's your genre, I say view it because it's slightly different than other zombie movies. But if it's not your genre, just cue it.
So personally, you'd say cue it?
I probably could have just cued it.
I like this movie probably more as a zombie movie than I like most zombie movies because it wasn't all about the zombies.
Right.
It did some interesting things. It kind of built a world where there was a zombie threat, but the zombies themselves weren't super relevant to you could take all the zombies out of this movie and it would pretty much be the same movie. I did not like this movie. After the beginning, I was bored as hell. It was well made. I like what it was trying to do. I have to give it a screw it, not because I think I want to say screw this movie, but because I wouldn't recommend anyone view it. If you want to watch this movie, watch it. I would never discourage someone from watching this movie if you think it might be your thing, but I cannot recommend you put it in your queue because on a night when you're bored and you're looking for a movie on Netflix, I think you could do a lot better. Don't put it in your queue.
Oh,
Screw
they're
it.
a lot worse.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay. Patrick, would you cue it, view it, or screw it?
Strong view it with prejudice. This is, I think, maybe my second favorite thing that we watched for this podcast after A Dark Song. I thought it was beautifully acted, beautifully shot. It was a unique take on its genre. I really enjoyed how character driven it was. Incredible performances. I mean, we haven't even talked about performance too much, but Martin Freeman is killer.
Oh, I'll get behind that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, everybody actually is really, really strong in terms of acting, and just the ending just fucked with me so bad. Like, it was really emotional, very powerful experience for me. I enjoyed it a lot.
I'm glad to hear that, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we'll get into the ending, I guess, and in just a little bit. We're going to go down to the spoiler room, talk about the ending, maybe talk about some more of the little plot arcs that pop up kind of midway through or afterwards in this movie, in this yarn. So go watch the movie and be like Patrick, or if you say screw it, stick around, listen to us. We'll spoil everything in just a minute. See you soon. Welcome back to Every Horror Movie on Netflix. We are in the spoiler room right now, getting ready to spoil this damn cargo movie and tell you everything about what happens to this small child baby. And did it make it across the outback or not?
Babby's first zombie apocalypse.
Quite redundant.
Yeah.
Chris, I really appreciate that turn of phrase, and I want to call attention to something you said earlier in the podcast that kind of slipped by because you made a point after it, but earlier you were like, Jesus, hell. And I want that to be a thing.
All right.
Jesus, hell.
That's how I felt about this movie after a certain point. I was with it for a while. Martin Freeman and Baby, they have a series. It's another movie that kind of feels like a series of vignettes where there's these little self-contained plot arcs, kind of reminiscent of The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm. I thought of that a lot, especially with we meet this guy who has ties to the oil industry, and he's basically running his own rig at this point, right? Mm-hmm. He's got his own little compound.
That was fascinating to me. This guy's deal is he was just a line worker.
Yeah.
He hung all the other line workers out to dry. He ran off with the kitchen girl and decided he was going to forcibly make her his quote-unquote wife. Mm-hmm. And he's just basically sitting on an oil pipe and like looting the dead and trying to accumulate material wealth for when this all settles out. He'll be on top of the heap with all his material goods.
Self-made man, inspiring story.
So I was wondering if they were trying to self-made
make Australia great again.
Self-made as a lot of them. So I was wondering if they were trying to, if that relates to the theme, and if it's, and then
white greed, capitalism, sure.
Yeah.
The themes are all very vague here, and that it works fine enough for what this movie is.
Yeah, but that's an interesting vignette.
Oh, it's cool, but it did feel like a video game, sort of. Like this is like a little sort of side plot that ultimately didn't reveal much about our protagonist.
No, he's kind of becomes the main antagonist of the movie, kind of, because he shows up in the climax.
Right.
No, I guess you're right.
Ready to raise hell, but to what end, I still really don't know.
I think it reveals plenty about the protagonist because, it's another kind of question for him where he's like should I take the risk on leaving this kid in this particular mess? You know, the woman seems like she's reliable, but then he slowly learns that the guy is a fucked up piece of shit. And
he tries to get her out of there. And
yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's a classic road trip type of movie. You know, it's like The Road or On the Road or
Road Games or
the Muppet movie.
The Muppet movie. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, this is a fairly standard storytelling technique of, the protagonist going from character to character and little adventures, I guess, happening along the way.
So something else that pissed me off about the movie in general, but manifests itself extremely in the scenes that relate to this plot arc, is I thought the action was very hard to follow, and it frustrated me. Like the part where the oil guy, he's shooting at our hero, but accidentally kills his, girlfriend or whatever instead.
She jumps in front of the bullet, though.
Was that intentional?
Yeah.
All right. See, I didn't read it that way. I thought it was an accident.
It was intentional. It was a little sloppy.
And then later on, he's wrestling I almost said Martin Freeman, and
a little different.
And our hero, Martin Freeman, and the antagonist are wrestling in the dark. We know that our hero has a revolver with 2 bullets in it. Which, the number of bullets you have is, if you tell me how many bullets you have, they better really matter. I better be able to keep track in my head. And then they kind of wrestle, and there's a gunshot or 2 that go off, and it's unclear who's been shot. And
well, it's like how Loomis can't remember how many bullets he put into Michael Myers in the first Halloween. It's 4 or 5. I don't know. It's the most pivotal event in my life. But
if Martin Freeman doesn't know, that's one thing. If I can't tell watching it, it's a different thing. I don't know. Kind of bothered me. I guess that's not a big deal. It's a low order concern. But these little things that kept me from getting emotionally invested. Mm-hmm. I felt like when the chips were down, nothing that happened in this movie really mattered. The movie was going to go on its trajectory and do what it wanted to do.
There are lots of
Give
cool
me an example
scenes.
of that. I don't understand.
Well, the primary example is the thing I brought up before, where it's there's the whole scene of whether or not he's going to leave his wife under the tree to die. He doesn't, but he leaves her to die 10 seconds later, or she dies 10 seconds later, because the Deus Ex Machina comes in and is like, well, the car's crashed now and she's dead anyway, so that whole choice that you were invested in doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but that doesn't change the person that he is. It changes the circumstances he's in, but it doesn't change the person that he is, which is a doggedly determined person, a person who's doggedly determined to preserve some sort of normalcy for his family, even when it doesn't make that much sense.
I couldn't connect the decisions that character was making to ramifications in the plot. It seemed like he was always getting bailed out by something, or that his choices didn't matter.
I think we all have agreed that Martin Freeman gives a great performance in this. Partially because I think none of us have seen him play this kind of role before, and he shows that he does have range. Mm-hmm. He does seem like kind of a shallow character. We don't really know that much about him, other than that he is determined in the way that I think almost anybody would be under any circumstances if their child's life was on the line. But ultimately what it comes down to is these vignettes where other characters become more important than he and his quest are. And I don't know, I mean, that works in some movies, like you said, like a road movie, or even the probably the greatest Australian movie ever made, Walkabout, is a series of vignettes. It's kind of, that's set up to be kind of a dream-like sort of mystical odyssey. This movie isn't. It's like trying to have it both ways, to be a straightforward action film and a character drama at the same time. And I don't know, it never gelled for me.
We can tell that he's kind of an everyman who's in over his head, and that's kind of all we get to know about him. But that's fine. Maybe I would have been more invested if I had cared more about this character, or just if they hadn't said, okay, here's a guy with a baby, you fill in the gaps. I mean, it's his baby, so obviously he wants to keep the baby safe, and that's really all.
Yeah, and does he keep that baby safe right up until the end?
Oh, does he keep that baby safe? God. Are we at the end yet? Do we just talk about the ending of this movie?
I mean, there's a pivotal moment in this movie that I think is supposed to be a moment of emotional catharsis. It's the resolution, and I almost fell out of my seat, and I was pretty tired at that point. It woke me up. It brought me back to life.
Share.
So he's in the final throes of, the disease. We think he's a goner, and then we get a shot of him. He's walking toward the Aboriginal tribe, right?
He's about to off himself because they come out. The Aboriginal girl has said, "Hey, all my people are where all that smoke is coming up. We just gotta get to them, and your kid will be safe." Okay. So
and she's incapacitated pretty much at this point because
for very vague reasons.
Well, no, she got fucked up in the tunnel during the fight with the what was his
threw
name?
her out of the truck.
He threw her out of a truck very vaguely.
The line worker, the oil guy who we were talking about before. There's a final fight with him, and he throws Toomey, I think her name is, out of this truck and
hits her head.
Yeah,
but I think I don't know, whatever. I didn't really have a understanding of what her injury is, which I think is important when you're having a survival type movie. I think a
concussion is what I was gaining because he kept telling her not to fall asleep. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense, I guess. But she's barely has it together for most of the journey.
And Vic almost kills the fucking baby. I was just sitting in my seat oh my God. Because at that point I was like, I wouldn't put it past this movie to kill the baby necessarily.
Then you would have said, screw it.
Maybe.
I know how you feel about killing babies.
I might be a psychopath because I have to be honest, I didn't really care about the baby in this movie after a certain point.
Me neither.
At a certain point I was like, you know what? That's our collateral, and it's just I didn't care. I didn't feel like there was and it didn't feel like an actual there was actually a threat on this baby, and it's a baby. I find them ugly, and they're hard to relate to because they can't talk, they can't communicate.
Well, didn't feel like there was a threat. They're surrounded by threat.
Well, no, it didn't feel like a threat to to my emotions, I guess. I'm like, well, if the baby dies, the baby dies. I care more about Martin Freeman.
Let's play a psychological game.
Okay. I mean, Vic almost, he makes a motion he's about to snap that kid's neck. And I was like, oh my fucking God. And then he, breaks down. He can't even do it. As fucked up as this guy is, he can't do it. And he gives the kid back to Martin Freeman. And I was just I was a fucking wreck.
Let's play a psychological game. Let's pretend,
a thought experiment.
Let's pretend there's no baby in this movie.
Okay.
Let's pretend instead
it's the suitcase from Pulp Fiction.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Martin Freeman's wife gives him a suitcase and is like, you have to keep it safe. Promise me you'll keep it safe.
What if it's the One Ring?
Sure. Anything. And let's pretend it's just a briefcase and we don't know what's in it. And he's like, keep it safe. And he's like, I will, baby. And he takes the briefcase.
Keep it secret.
Is it the same movie? I feel like we have the same fucking movie.
What? I feel like it is.
Yeah.
What?
I don't care. There's no reason for me to care about this baby other than that it's a small, fragile, thing that's going to become a full-grown human someday. But I don't know anything about it. I know what it symbolizes. It's hard to project personality or
what do you need to know about a baby? There's no personality that you're going to get out of a baby.
That's what I'm saying. And the fact that it's a baby,
that she's an innocent, that she can't take care of herself, and she's dependent on mom or dad to take care of her, or some kind of a guardian. So she's this innocent being that doesn't really know what's going on. It would be a completely different movie if it wasn't a child that this father was trying to take care of.
Yes.
There's not enough in this movie from the baby's perspective, which granted...
What?
Please tell me how that would have gone.
Well, I mean, Spielberg has made a career early on about showing... telling stories through perspectives that we're not used to. It'd be one thing if we can see sort of if this movie it frames Martin Freeman always in the action, but it'd be another thing to see from from the baby's perspective, behind him.
Let me stop you right there.
I don't know
about that.
I don't know. Maybe it's a stretch.
One of the most I see what you're saying, but I think it does do that. One of the most impactful shots in the whole fucking movie is after the car crashes and you see the baby in the foreground, in the background, way out of focus, Martin Freeman killing his wife after she goes full zombie.
Okay, you're right.
The baby is crying, and then somehow, and I don't know how the fuck they did this, the baby stops crying the moment that he kills the zombie wife, and that was a really impactful moment to me.
There's that one shot, but other than that, and that was that actually, now that you brought that up, I actually really liked that. I remember being moved by that scene and thinking okay, I want more of that. Otherwise, it just feels like the baby's just being kind of traded around. Like you said, Chris, it's like a MacGuffin. And there's no reason for me to get I couldn't feel attached to
I don't know what you can do with it more. I mean, I'm trying to think. Are there other movies
That's
that
why I'm
revolve
saying I
around
just
a
wish it
fucking
wasn't a baby.
Yeah.
Well, it was Baby's Day Out.
Yeah, I love
classic,
that movie.
The baby.
3 Men and a Baby. There's tons of movies. We can go into
Look who's
that.
talking. Look who's talking to.
Yes,
Look who's
but those
talking
are
now.
Well,
perspectives.
you're talking about babies that have personality.
Yeah, Baby Geniuses.
I don't know how.
But
What did you want
those are
Bruce
different.
Willis to do its voice? Like, what the fuck do you guys want? This is fucking ridiculous.
I don't know.
The baby symbolizes innocence and the possibility that there could at some point be a world where
Yes.
this baby can grow up and not have a fucked up
I
life.
agree with
Like,
that.
there's so much riding on that baby, and it doesn't matter what baby it is, but it's a cute baby, and it gives a decent performance as far as fucking babies go.
Well, I guess that my thing is like, okay, there has to be a way to like show that though. Otherwise, it's just a baby. Like, I don't feel like there are a lot of scenes where like people are talking about the baby's potential and like what it means and how like it could help lead the revolution when it grows
You
up.
don't need that.
It would help. It would help for
It would
me.
help, yeah, for me too. That's what I'm getting.
Why do you
No,
need someone to
you don't
explain
need
to you that a
that.
baby symbolizes the possibility that
Who cares about
this
that?
world could
The
be
point
better?
is
Because
that
not like he's
she's
the
the most-
chosen one. It's
Oh
not
my God.
Anakin. Like
We are just, we're
What do
getting
you guys-
heated now.
what
We're
do you
getting
want?
heated. Oh my God.
I'm just trying to find a way to explain why I didn't care about this baby.
I get, you know what? For some people, like Sam and Patrick, you show a man and he has a baby, and that's all the motivation and that's all the emotion we need. This baby's got to stay safe. For whatever reason, I didn't feel the same way about that baby. The baby kind of pissed me off. I guess Steven feels the same way.
Yeah.
We needed something else to hook our emotions onto besides the fact that, oh, this guy has a baby. Lots of people have a baby. Lots of babies have already died in the apocalypse that this movie shows us. This baby's going to have a fucked life regardless of whether it survives or not. I don't know. And you know what? I kind of think of The Last of Us again, not to keep beating that drum, but, you know, they do have the girl MacGuffin in The Last of Us. Very much the same situation where the hero has promised to deliver this girl for who's essentially his wife. And she's also like may hold the cure to the zombie outbreak in her blood. So that's
Okay,
why
but
you
we
can
know
hang on
that.
to that.
I haven't seen that movie, but you're saying that we
It's a
knew.
video game, Sam.
Okay, whatever. So
Do you even game?
I
Bro.
I do not game. No, but if you knew that fact, then it's totally different. But this is a child. Like, we don't need to know that she's important in any particular way.
This movie banks a lot on how the audience member feels about a baby.
You know what other movie does and does it really fucking well is Children of Men. That's a
Oh,
movie where
yeah.
people talk about the importance of the baby, and even though it's a baby that you can't relate to, you understand that like this
Speaking
baby.
of Clive Owen's career,
It's not that it's an apocalyptic
No,
movie.
but
I
it's
mean,
different.
yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
but
but,
Very
but
different.
that's a movie
Steven-
where I cared about the baby.
But it's inside someone. You don't see anything from its perspective. You don't know anything about its personality.
That's great. You
It's
don't
a
even.
very undeveloped character.
it's basically like
We have no idea what that baby's thinking.
I was
I see
reminded
that.
of
I
like,
see that baby coming out of the womb and being birthed in that movie. Like it's impossible not to feel connected when you're like in the nitty gritty.
That
Like,
happens in the
So
last,
screw,
like,
screw
2
the baby
minutes.
because she's out of the mom. Like, come on. I just don't.
that's a movie
I don't
that I
understand.
cared about the baby so much. I didn't even need to see the baby to care about it.
Well, good for you.
Steve is coming off pretty right to life here.
this movie, this felt like that scene in the 1966 Batman movie where Batman's got a bomb and he's just looking for somewhere to put it. And then it doesn't fucking matter. Martin Freeman's going to die. He's like, I got this thing. Where can I put it? Where it's safe.
Hot potato.
I got this thing.
I mean, I think it might boil down to you being a psychopath. If you're actively comparing a man trying to find a safe home for his child to Batman trying to get rid of a bomb.
You know, something else that I have to say here is like I didn't care enough about Martin Freeman either. Like there's not. It's again like I kind of wish that like the emotional drama in the first 20 minutes of this movie had been dragged out longer, and that we'd seen more of like him and his wife interacting with the baby and like the family unit, and then it would feel more heartbreaking when it was torn apart. It just felt like we're just introduced to these characters, we get like a couple of scenes with them, and then suddenly we're escalated into this wasteland. I think that's my problem.
I didn't need that at all. In fact, I'm glad you brought up Children of Men, because it reminds me of Children of Men and how quickly they build that relationship between Clive Owen and Julianne Moore, and how quickly she's then torn away. You can do that if you write it decently and act and direct it decently, and I think they do that in this film. I thought the wife's performance was excellent, and I really got a sense of that bond between them and the loss that occurred when she was taken out of the picture.
I'm glad it worked for you. It didn't work for me. Felt like something was missing.
Just comes down to how we feel about babies, I guess.
No, I wouldn't say that. Well, maybe for you.
I would say that. And you are my good friend, but I never want to see a movie that you make with a baby in it.
You know what?
She's addressing Chris for the listening audience.
I gotta say, if it was a cat, I would have given this movie a viewing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, bring a cat through that outback?
Somehow I feel more sympathetic toward a cat than a baby, but there we go.
And I agree. Martin Freeman didn't do it for me either. Maybe because he's like, it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to die. So.
Fuck cats, guys.
We're like,
fuck cats.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
I don't know. All right. Well, that brings us down.
Actually, I might have cared more about a dog if it was a dog instead of a baby.
A boy and his
I
dog.
might have cared more.
A hobbit and his dog. It would have been a great movie.
I might have cried if they were like threatening to kill the dog. But I didn't cry in this movie.
Big lack of
almost
animals
cried.
in this movie.
I might have actually cried if there was a dog.
No kangaroos.
You
no
know why?
dingoes.
Because the zombies are eating the animals.
Are they?
What if a kangaroo is strangling the dog? Had him in a headlock.
I mean, it
I
would
don't
go
know what I
viral
would
for
do.
sure.
I'm not sure if it would be more ridiculous than the last scene of this
Jesus
movie.
fucking Christ.
Oh wow, yeah, we got on a huge detour here.
So they're going towards this smoke, and our hero is quickly succumbing. He's like, I'm just gonna bury my head in the fucking sand. Screw you guys, I'm a zombie now. Cut to the Aboriginal tribe going full-blown Matrix on these zombies. They got their
fucking
spears,
shit up.
they got their smoke machines going. They're wearing their crazy get-ups.
They're in battle gear, baby.
Crazy
It's cool.
get-ups.
Well,
I liked it. There's some guys spears going through heads.
by crazy get-ups, I mean the guy's wearing a jersey with a number 23 on the back, which is a huge faux pas. You don't do that. And the smoke clears. Oh, God, I don't even know how to set this up.
Let me explain.
Look, Patrick,
'Cause
you
it'll just
love
piss
this.
me off. Yeah.
Patrick will make it sound like it's a really impactful moment.
I want to hear how he
'Cause it
received it.
is.
I want to hear how he received it. All right, Patrick, what happens at the end of this beautiful film?
So
Wait, tell it from the baby's perspective.
No.
oh yes, yeah, I'll finally sell you on it. So Dada walk out of smoke.
By baby's perspective, I mean the way the camera is.
No, so Martin Freeman has taken an interest in like meat. He saw a dead body on the ground and he's like thinking about eating it, and he ends up picking up a piece of meat for reasons we don't know
What's in
why.
his pocket meat.
Yeah, pocket meat.
Yeah.
You gotta have some
Reach in there for a
sometimes.
Not gonna
snack.
lie, that same phrase occurred to me as I saw that. I was like, oh, pocket meat. Yeah, just save it for later.
He's got like an intestine coming out of his pocket. It's all
So
good.
as he is basically preparing to zombify, and he's like saying his goodbye to the Aboriginal girl, he says something like, I have to go now, or something, which also I was just like, ugh, like right in the fucking heart. He's pulling stuff out of this like emergency kit, and he pulls out like a zip tie and like
you think
what
he's going
appears
to
be
do
a
himself
bite
with
guard.
the
Yeah.
stiletto weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've seen this thing that I was never sure if it was a shot,
It's the
like
thing
a
from the
hypodermic
X-Files.
syringe, or a stiletto weapon. Yeah,
It reminded me of an ice pick.
yeah, it's some way of killing
Kind of like
yourself.
a switchblade, but with an ice pick.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if it was like an injection element as well or not.
Yeah.
No, it's just when you inject an ice pick to the temple, you're like basically
Dunzo.
dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, you seem to know a lot about this.
Don't look in my basement.
Anyways, they're trying to get to the Aboriginals, who are at this point fairly close, but the Aboriginal girl, to me, is incapable of taking the baby the rest of the way herself because she's, got a concussion or whatever the fuck we've determined is wrong with her. So he is pulling out this stuff, and you think he's about to kill himself. So we go back to the Aboriginals, and then we see sort of staggering out of the smoke, zombie Martin Freeman. He's got the baby still on his back, but also the Aboriginal girl is hanging onto his back. So he's still walking. He's a zombie, but he's like, either he or she has zip tied his hands together so he can't cause any damage with his hands, put a bite guard in his mouth so he can't bite anybody, and then they put like a fucking stick on his shoulder with the meat on it, so he's like following the meat like a carrot on a stick.
Yep.
And she's like steering him basically. So it's a way to get her to the Aboriginals.
Like a
while
horse.
Still, yeah, like a horse.
I'm
I
trying
guess.
not to laugh out loud, even as you describe it
I
in a
know.
dignified way. It was a fucking ridiculous visual
fucking great.
of this Aborigine girl
The resourcefulness.
riding him like a zombie. Our hero is now a zombie and is being ridden like a fucking horse.
It's a beautiful
And she's got
moment.
a pole in front of his face, making him walk towards the meat so she can ride him.
It's a beautiful moment. What a resourceful use of a zombie. You never seen that before.
I've never seen it before, but it's fucking hilarious. And I didn't. If this movie worked the way it should have, I shouldn't have felt like I needed that kind of catharsis at that moment. Like, I shouldn't have felt like I needed a laugh. And it looks absurd.
Was it the movie not working the way it should have, or was it you guys not working?
I don't
the way
understand.
It doesn't matter. I gave it a cue, and I'm sticking to it.
That makes sense that this was in the short because that's clever in a short when it's one guy who has to like find a way to like, you know, and you have 10 minutes to tell this story and he's like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to keep walking even when I'm a zombie. Oh, that's clever. Not necessary in this movie, but I feel like even the ambiguous like injury that the girl suffers to incapacitate her, but only to the extent where she can only ride on top of the guy but not take the baby herself. Long way to go for this payoff, which seems to be their obligation to the short that they made, and no one stopped to think, hey, wait, does this really match the emotions we're going for in this new story we're trying to tell with all this Aborigine stuff added to it?
Because I'm the only one who's seen it, I encourage everyone to check it out. It's just 7 minutes. Oh, it's really 6 with a minute of credits. In the short, it's just kind of like a, oh, wow, I've never seen that before moment. Like, it doesn't really mean anything. And, like, it's short enough that, like, you only see the guy and the baby, so it's easier to be invested in this little quest of him trying to save his baby. You don't have all this other drawn-out shit with the Aboriginal side plot and everything else and all these vignettes. It's just used as, like, a, oh, that's cool. I, like, never would have thought to do that if I was turning into a zombie moment. And in the movie, it like that moment, like, everything hangs on that moment. Like that's how the baby is eventually delivered to the Aboriginal tribe who are going to raise her. And that just makes it seem even sillier to me somehow that he's being used as a jockey. We spent this whole movie like admiring how resourceful and like alive and intense he is, despite the fact that he's dying, and then we just see him with his fucking mouth hanging open, this yellow pus coming out of his eyes.
It's his final act of resourcefulness. That's the perfect reinforcement of what we learned about his character, is that he found a way to still make himself useful and help this girl and his child out, even after he's been incapacitated. This thing that he's been racing the clock for the whole movie.
On paper, it works. Visually, I just thought it looked silly.
Here's how I'll meet you in the middle, Patrick. When he's turning into a zombie, he's saying goodbye to the kid, like, he's passing the torch. That's high drama. It works pretty well. You'd have to really fuck it up for that kind of situation to not play emotionally. But then to cut from that to this ridiculous visual.
Right.
I laughed out loud and Steve laughed out loud. And it's just a bad move, I thought.
No, it made me feel emotions, but
what emotions?
Not as much emotions as the final moment, because then one of the Aboriginals is about to kill Martin Freeman, and the Aboriginal girl stops him and pulls out this little bottle of perfume that Martin Freeman's been using the whole movie. He sprays it near the baby because it reminds her of the mother.
That was good. That was
calms
fine.
her down.
Yeah.
So she sprays it in front of his face, and you see this sort of like look of calm come across his zombie face for a minute. And she puts her hand on his hand, and then they stab him, and I was just a fucking wreck.
God.
Right.
You're such
because
a softie.
I do care about him
I
and
am.
his wife still. That's why that works for me, because I care about the relationship between him and his wife and his grief over his wife that turned into a zombie and he had to kill with his bare hands, and that was all good. Give me that. Don't give me him being ridden like a fucking horse.
Yeah.
Great moment.
I agree. It was really silly.
Well, I'm glad it worked. I'm still confused on what they were trying to really show us with the whole Aborigine theme.
I meant to do research, but, you know.
All we can do
Enough
is
time.
guess.
Life.
I should have been able to infer more from this movie. I think we got it. Like, you know, it's like colonialism. White people are taking over. They're making bad decisions for the planet, for the environment, for the economy, and it's these people feel, you know, disenfranchised, cast off further into the margins, and like now they have a chance to circumvent this plague and maybe start something new. Right? Like they've got their own solutions to this problem, their own ways of dealing with the zombies and the wreckage that this has all caused.
I don't know. The ending with the tribe kind of bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
For one reason, I felt it was doing the kind of thing that a lot of things do, where it's like saying, oh, these indigenous people have been doing everything the right way the whole time, and like this is the ideal civilization, where it's like, I think their civilization having a different point of view is good enough. They don't need to also be the most badass at killing zombies and the most, you know, idyllic civilization in play. Like, there is some cool stuff between Martin Freeman and the girl where they're, like, understanding each other, or he's understanding the Aboriginal culture a little better, which is fine. And then also, like, going back to how I read it as kind of a climate change metaphor, especially because they invoke the fossil fuel industry into the movie.
Right.
And I'm like, this isn't a solution for the actual apocalypse we find ourselves in. Like, even if we all go back to being content to not, have TV and to live in like a hunter-gatherer or agrarian society, that can't support 7 billion people.
Well,
we need our technology and everything. We need our technology, science and technology, to keep 7 billion people alive.
Well, the fact that you're personally preoccupied with climate change because of the UN report right now and personally looking for solutions, and that you've now grafted that onto this movie, is not a legitimate critique of the movie. This movie came out before the UN climate change report, and before you were thinking about how to solve
but I think it has some things to say about the environment and the political culture. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a contrast between the Aborigines and the fracking industry, for example.
But I don't think it's purporting to offer a solution to climate change. I think
it's trying to depict
I think you're imposing that on it.
A better way of living.
Maybe we don't really see how they live, except for that, like, what feels like a family reunion shot toward the end.
Yeah, I don't think it's proposing a better way of living.
I don't know.
Another way in which this movie is just kind of thinly conceived, but, can't have everything.
Some of us can, and I did today in the hour and 43 minutes that I spent with this movie.
So, Patrick, did you get anything from it thematically that really, I mean, obviously you connected really well with the scenes of the relationship with the guy and his baby and his need to deliver the baby, etc. What did the indigenous stuff do for you?
Because it is a huge part of this movie. I mean, and that's kind of one thing that kind of like pulled me out of it, is that I didn't really understand what it was trying to communicate.
I mean, it's sort of like I've said already. I mean, I think it's almost like a bait and switch in a way, in the sense that the Aboriginal culture has been there the whole time, the whole movie, and sort of slowly, gradually reveals itself to the point where these people understand what's going on way better than the white people do, basically. I don't know. There was something fairly elemental and just very powerful to me, especially about the end, where, you see that the Aboriginals have their shit together and know what they're doing against the zombies.
Yeah, especially because Martin Freeman comes out and overtly criticizes the Aboriginal traditions, where, he's like, listen, I don't care what your traditions say. There's been scientists trying to solve the zombie plague, and they haven't succeeded. And then we find out that maybe their things aren't working for the reasons they think they are, but they still have a solution to the zombies that is as legitimate as anything anyone else has presented.
Yeah.
It's a little, oh man, I don't know. I might go off the rails here, and stop me if I do, but it's a little hokey. Like, I feel like if I lived in Australia, it's like the equivalent of, like, if this film were made in America and you substituted Aboriginals with Native Americans. Like, I feel like that would just be, like, so on the nose about, like, and almost kind of offensive. Like, well, they have it right. Like, treating Native Americans as sort of these, like, mystical people who have it all figured out and they know the right way of life. I don't know.
There's a thin line to walk there, and that's why I was very interested in knowing if the people behind this movie are actually are Aborigines or not, or if they're just kind of using them as a plot device.
It remains unknown, and I wish I had done more research before we recorded.
This is completely on a tangent, but I can't wait for the zombie apocalypse to happen in real life, because at least we'll fucking call the zombies zombies. Because I'm getting tired of all these movies that take place where there's an obvious zombie epidemic and everyone doesn't say the word zombie.
Was there a juncture in this movie where, like, you thought someone should have said zombie?
Well, they call them diggers, they call them ghosts, they call them all this shit.
Ghosts was sweet. The Aboriginals all called them ghosts.
The Aborigines called them ghosts, and then everyone else called them diggers because they dig in the sand, right? And we've seen that in so many things. Diggers, infected, lurkers, walkers.
It's like more of a stretch to come up with something like that than just automatically say zombie.
Or at least let's assume that these characters live in a world where they've seen a zombie movie before, and it's
I don't think people would just say zombies if the zombie apocalypse
I agree.
happened.
Because they're people. They're actual people. So if you see your husband or wife, you're not going to say, "Oh, my husband's a zombie."
I would. I'd be like, "Oh, he's a fucking zombie now."
If I'm gonna call her a digger, I mean, my wife's probably gonna be a digger.
Plus, it's so embedded in popular culture at this point. Like, if zombies actually happen, no one would call them zombies, you know, because that would seem too far fetched. We describe them by some other term, then we'd probably come up with a slang term like digger to describe them. Maybe.
Like, listen, guys, if there was ever a time to call them zombies, this is it. I'm calling them zombies.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna go kill some zombies.
Did Dolph Lundgren just walk in? Oh no, it's just Chris.
Oh, but I'm built like Dolph Lundgren. All right, guys. Well, that's that part of our show. I guess
The police are trying to drag you out the door now.
That's that part of our show. That's 99% of the show.
Yeah, there's only one thing left to
Wrapping
do.
up
We're spinning the wheel of death tonight, and I'm super excited to do so. It's been a while, it feels like, since we spun that old wheel and picked a movie, deviated from the old alphabet.
Yeah, it's been a while. We're gonna have to grease it up a little bit.
We're gonna have to WD-40 this shit.
Make sure it's water
Check the
soluble.
bearings on that baby.
All right, so I think Patrick won last time, right?
God, who knows?
Yeah, I think
it really
so.
has been a while.
Yeah,
What
so-
was the last wheel? Oh, Train to Busan, yeah.
So we're
was the
gonna,
last one.
a better zombie movie.
No.
Agreed.
No.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
I like Train to Busan better.
All right, so we're going to drag this
Just
old
slightly.
wheel in here, and it's Patrick gets to do the honors this time to spin it, and hopefully
do I?
it doesn't land on Patrick again, because I want to pick a goddamn movie for us.
Give it
hope
a
it
big
does.
ol' crank.
All right, it's going.
Wow.
Money, 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 money. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Daddy needs a new pair of shoes.
Oh, it's Steven. It was almost Patrick, but he got
It's close.
robbed.
It's close.
Steven, what are we watching for next time?
We're gonna watch Terrifier.
Oh, no! Why are we picking Terrifier, Steven?
I mean, I've heard some buzz about it, but also you brought up to me that a certain Shockwaves podcast co-host Rob Galuzzo had kind of an incendiary tweet about the way people are consuming this film.
Yeah, this is the first time I became aware of this movie, Terrifier.
And Chris and I already had a huge debate about it.
Yeah, Patrick and I already have argued about Terrifier, so I can't wait to argue about it even more when he loves it and the rest of us hate it.
I can just say I don't really have much interest in this movie other than that, and that I keep hearing about. It doesn't really sound like anything special, but you know,
I don't even know what it's about. Do we know? Does anybody know?
It's terrifying.
it involves a clown of some sort.
Oh.
It's
Oh, boy.
like we haven't seen that.
Right.
All right, so that's our movie for next time, Terrifier. Terrifier. I wish. Terrifier.
Terrifying her. I barely know her.
All right, so catch us then. 2 weeks. We'll be back for that one, Terrifier. Until then, you can hit us up on social media if you want. We love hearing from our fans. You can email us, gang@everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com. We actually got a great email after the last episode from Paul in Seattle. Said some really nice things. We said some really nice things back.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for
Thank you,
listening.
Paul. That was really sweet.
If you want in on that action, send us a little email. We'd
I
love
want
to
in on
hear
that
from
action.
you. Oh, yeah.
But if you wanted to say something shitty to us, just don't,
Or hey,
because we don't want to hear it.
Or hey,
I do.
Weigh in on the
I want it all.
controversy. Have you seen Cargo? What did you think? How did you feel the indigenous themes were handled? What were the themes? Just let us know what your
Were there
thoughts
themes
are.
at all?
We might read them on the next episode. But until then, we're gone. So for every horror
We're
movie
about
on
to ghost y'all.
for every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Chris.
I'm Patrick, and I have a stick of meat tied to my back as I walk out the door.
Oh, it's
And
nice.
I'm still sobbing from Cargo.
Oh boy.
I'm Steven.
And I'm Sam.
And I'm still laughing my ass off at that visual because it was horrible. Thanks for joining us.
Rude. Rude.